Collier-Wise.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Holland. Clarion Mines.
Here.
Holly Mines.
Here.
Price.
Here.
Ward. Wilson.
Here.
Mayor Powell.
Here.
Student Representative Ireland.
Would everyone please stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 are minutes. We have minutes of special meeting on April 18th and regular meeting April 18th and a special meeting April 19th.
Motion to second to approve the minutes of April 18th special, April 18th regular, and April 19th special. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 4, adoption of the agenda. John or Mike, any adjustments to the agenda as printed? Okay.
Move the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as printed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5, visitors to be heard. Addressing the council. Persons addressing the council shall use the microphone at the podium. Please raise your hand to be recognized, go to the podium, and state your name and address. For items that are not on the agenda, members of the public may speak under visitors be heard on any topic not on the agenda. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes and no decision will be made at this time. For agenda items, public testimony will be taken at the beginning of each agenda item after the subject has been announced by the mayor and explained by staff. Any citizen who wishes may speak one time for 5 minutes on each agenda item. Public testimony will then be closed and the topic will be given to the governing body for possible action. At this point, only City Council members and staff may discuss the current agenda item unless a council member moves to allow another person to speak and there's unanimous consent from the council. Questions from council members, however, may be directed to staff or a member of the public through the presiding officer at any time. At this time, we do have one proclamation, and that's a National Nurse Week proclamation. And Catherine, if you would read that, please.
Proclamation of National Nurses Week. Whereas the nearly 3.1 million nurses in the United States comprise our nation's largest healthcare profession, and whereas the depth and breadth of the nursing profession meets the different and emerging healthcare needs of the American population in a wide range of settings, and whereas the American Nurses Association, as the voice for the nurses of this country, is working to chart a new course for a healthy nation that relies on increasing delivery of primary and preventative health care. And whereas a renewed emphasis on primary and preventative health care will require the better utilization of all of our nation's registered nursing resources, and whereas professional nursing has been demonstrated to be an indispensable component of the safety and quality of care of hospitalized patients, and whereas the demand for nursing services will be greater than ever because of the aging of the American population, the expansion of life-sustaining technology, and the growth of home health care services, and whereas more qualified nurses will be needed in the future to meet the increasingly complex needs of healthcare consumers in this country, and whereas the cost-effective, safe, and quality healthcare services provided by nurses will be an ever more important component of the U.S. healthcare delivery system in the future, and whereas, along with the American Nurses Association, the South Dakota Nurses Association has declared the week of May 6th through 12th, 2016 as National Nurses Week with the theme, Culture of Safety, It Starts With You, in celebration of the ways in which nurses strive to provide safe and high-quality patient care and map out the way to improve our healthcare system. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we, the governing body of the City of Vermillion, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim the week of May 6th through 12th, 2016 as National Nurses Week. Be it further resolved that the residents of Vermillion celebrate nursing's accomplishments and efforts to improve our healthcare system and show our appreciation for the nation's nurses, not just during this week, but at every opportunity throughout the year. dated at Vermillion, South Dakota, this second day of May 2016.
Thank you, Catherine. Is there a representative from the hospital that would please come forward and accept this? The microphone, so that
I'd just like to say on behalf of the nurses of Sanford Vermillion Medical Center, we'd like to thank the mayor and the city of Vermillion for recognizing us during this week.
thank you very much. Appreciate the work. Okay, moving on then, are there any issues in, anybody that wishes to speak on a topic that's not on the agenda? Please come to the microphone.
Sorry, we had a fire call here a little bit ago, so some of us couldn't get all our uniform, but we wanted to look professional when we came up here tonight.
Ryan Fishback. I'm a captain and president of the Vermillion Rural Fire Association.
My name's Keith Thompson. I'm an assistant chief.
And John Walker, assistant chief with the Vermillion Fire Department. First of all, I'd like to take this honor to thank you to speak tonight. The individuals that spoke at the last council meeting do not speak for our department because they do not represent our department, or are they members. The fire department officers, executive board, were stunned that concerns and grievances were never mentioned, were never discussed within our department or brought to the chief before things were taken to the city council. As officers of the Vermillion Fire Department, we're able to speak on behalf of the department. Our fire department is 46 members strong. Our leadership, the chief, assistant chiefs, our lieutenants, and our captains illustrate dedication to training and our members of our department and keeping the membership to a high standard. With honor and dedication, our department has been serving Vermillion, Clay County, and surrounding counties with our fire department since 1892. Vermillion Fire Department will continue to protect and serve our community from fires, car accidents, gas leaks, medical emergencies for many years to come. We are extremely proud of our department and members are their dedication to the community. Our firefighters and EMTs pride on our professionalism as they serve our community from disasters big or small. Chief Japer has brought a new perspective on emergency service in hopes of bettering how our department operates and serves Vermillion, Clay County, and surrounding areas. Members of the department support and encourage the forward direction of our department. And I want to thank you guys for all the support that you give us for tonight and through everything you do for us for the department. Are there any questions?
Just a comment, it's a thin sheet of paper that has only one side.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your perspectives. I appreciate that very much.
Okay, thank you.
Is there, I'm sorry, a comment? Sorry.
I just want to make sure to say thank you to the department and everything you do. Obviously, we saw you at work just an hour ago doing work for our community, and I know at the last meeting maybe there was a feeling that we weren't necessarily able to say how much we appreciate the work that you do and that we think that you're doing a great job, and I want to make sure that that is said tonight.
Okay, we'll bring it back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that has an issue that they'd like to bring that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll turn to the council. Is there anyone in the council that has anything not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on then to public hearings. Item A, a special permit to exceed permissible sound levels for Coyote Inc. and South Dakota Shakespeare Festival beginning Monday, June 6th through Saturday, June 11th, 2016, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday, June 12th, 2016, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. for Shakespeare Festival performance. And Mike, please.
An application was received from Coyote and the South Dakota Shakespeare Festival for a special permit to exceed allowable noise levels by no more than 50% for the Shakespeare Festival on June 6th to the 11th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and June 12th from 3 to 7 in the Bandshell area at Prentice Park. should be noted that there be one change this year in their request is that they are doing Sunday performance as a matinee, whereas they did them in the night, evening performances before. The application and the notice of hearing are included in the packet, along with a diagram of the event. Staff is not aware of any problems related to the issuance of this special permit in previous years. The City Council need to determine at this public hearing if the event is in a suitable location with appropriate facilities during allowable time, and if the applicant can demonstrate the public benefit for the event. The fee has been paid. Administration recommend issuing the special permit unless information is presented at the hearing that indicates there'd be a problem.
Thank you, Mike. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this topic? Seeing none, turn to the council. Motion and a second to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item B, special daily malt beverage and wine license for the Vermillion Area Chamber of Commerce and Development Company, Inc., on or about June 9 through 12, 2016, at the Prentice Park Bandshell area for the Shakespeare performances. And again, Mike, please.
The Vermillion Chamber and Development Company has submitted an application for the special daily malt beverage and wine license for the Shakespeare Festival on June 9th to the 12th, 2016. Attached is to the packet is the notice of public hearing, diagram of the area, memo on control measures, and the police chief's memo. The police chief's report is recommended parameters for the event. As the event will be held on city property, ordinance allows the city council to include such conditions and restrictions as the governing body deems appropriate and consistent with state law. The police chief had met with Professor Greg Huckabee and recommended the following parameters: that wristbands will be distributed to those that are ID'd to ensure that they're over the age of 21 years of age. The VCDC will provide ushers who will monitor both the purchase area and the audience grounds within the area designated. The fence concession area and the audience area will have posted signs instructing consumers not to remove alcoholic beverages from the two designated areas. And the sale hours are established at a half hour prior to the performance to a half hour after the performance. The fee has been paid, and administration recommend approval of the issuance of the special daily malt beverage and wine license contingent upon the parameters as laid out by the police chief.
Thank you, Mike. Again, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this topic? Seeing none, council. Motion to second to approve the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item C, special daily malt beverage and wine license for the Fraternal Order of Eagles on or about May 20, 21, and 22, 2016 at Prentice Park Baseball Field for a fundraising tournament. Again, Mike.
Well, we're going to move to another spot in Prentice Park. The Fraternal Order of Eagles has submitted an application for the special daily malt beverage and wine license on May 20, 21, and 22 at the Prentice Park Baseball Field for a fundraising tournament being put on in conjunction with the Gray Sox. The notice of hearing is attached. As the event is held on city property, ordinance allows the city council to include such conditions and restrictions as the governing body may deem appropriate. The police chief had met with Brad Campbell representing the Fraternal Order of Eagles and recommended the following parameters be established for the event: that they have 5 staff members will supervise the event's distribution and consumption of alcohol. Signage will be posted at the entry gate that alcohol dispensing points stating all alcohol consumed is only inside the fence spectator area. No one under 21 will be served or allowed to consume. No intoxicated person will be served. No alcohol can leave the fence spectator area. No outside alcohol is allowed in the fenced area. that staff will check all persons wishing to purchase and provide a wristband once their age has been verified. Persons who have been wristbanded or appear to be under 21 will not be allowed to purchase. Persons who have not been wristbanded or who appear to be under 21 will not be allowed to purchase or consume. The hours of sale will be established to a half hour before the game to the end of the game. The fees have been paid for this event. Recommends approval of special daily license contingent upon the parameters established by the police chief.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this topic? Seeing none, council? Motion and approval for the special daily malt beverage for the Eagles for May 20, 21, and 22. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item D, special daily malt beverage and wine license for Vermillion Chamber of Commerce and Development Company on or about May 15, 2016 at Prentice Park Baseball Field for a baseball game. And again, Mike.
The Vermillion Chamber of Commerce and Development Company has submitted an application for a special daily malt beverage and wine license on or about May 15th at Prentice Park Baseball Field for a game between the Sioux City Explorers and the Lincoln Salt Dogs. The notice of hearings included in the packet, along with the police chief's report. He's met with Nate Welch and recommended the following parameters. Since this is being held on city property, ordinance allows the city to include such conditions and restrictions as the governing body deems appropriate. The parameters that worked out with Nate is to have 7 staff members will supervise the event. It's distribution and consumption of alcohol. Signage will be posted at the entry gate and the alcohol dispensing points. Alcohol consumption is only allowed inside the fenced spectator area. No one under 21 will be served or allowed to consume alcohol. No intoxicated person will be served. No alcohol can leave the fenced spectator area. No outside alcohol is allowed inside the fenced spectator area. Staff will be check all persons wishing to purchase and provide a wristband once their age has been verified. Persons who have not been wristbanded or who appear to be under 21 will not be allowed to purchase or consume alcohol. The hours of sale will be established at an hour before the game to a half hour after the game. The fee has been paid for this. Administration recommends approval of the special daily malt beverage and wine license for the VCDC contingent upon the parameters worked out with the police chief.
Thank you, Mike. Any comments or questions from the audience on this? We do other things than alcohol license permits, but I would just add that the VCDC is trying something unique here, bringing in 2 semi-pro baseball teams, and I would challenge anybody that says there's nothing to do in Vermillion should pay attention to what we've just been through here. So, do we have a motion and a second? A motion and a second to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Mike, you can take a breath now. Item E is the first reading of Ordinance 1338. Handy, please.
Thank you. It's my turn for a while.
Yeah.
Ordinance 1338 is related to the backyard chickens topic that's been brought up recently with the City Council. The only intent of this ordinance was to have coops be somehow in the zoning ordinance as a use. Short of that, it doesn't have a lot of effect. The effect of having backyard chickens was already considered by the council at the last meeting, and that was tabled. So this ordinance really doesn't mean a whole lot without that part of it. So, but since it was advertised as a public hearing, we need to address the issue tonight with this ordinance. I tried putting in here, you know, how the council should maybe word this, but basically what we're asking for tonight is really just to cancel this, and we will bring it back and re-advertise for a new public hearing once the backyard chickens ordinance, once we decide when and we hear when that comes back. because this may change depending on how that discussion might go into the future. And really, since this is it's a housekeeping ordinance, so it's not very complicated. So it'd be quite easy to do that.
So management is suggesting tabling?
Cancel.
Canceling.
Yep.
Canceling.
So I would move that we cancel the public hearing.
A motion and a second to cancel the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item F, first reading of ordinance 1339, amending section 155.032, R2 residential district to provide for fraternities, sororities, and boarding and lodging houses as conditional uses and providing for lot and yard regulations for such uses. Again, Andy, please.
Thank you. This ordinance is also a pretty simple one, but this stems from some discussions we've had with some Greek houses in Vermillion. Obviously, Vermillion's a college community, so we're a little unique that we do have fraternity and sorority houses in town, and I think most people like that. And they fit in quite well in the neighborhoods where they are. I haven't heard a lot of complaints. I think they keep their property up, and it looks nice. So, but really what this is going to do is try to help those uses if they want to build a new house. Because right now, today, it'd be very difficult for them to do that. And this is just the part one of some subsequent assistance that we're going to hope to provide for them in ordinance. But this one is the more simple one, and this is moving them and boarding and lodging houses, which we don't have any in town today, but we're kind of moving them also into the conditional use category. And what that will do is let the Planning Commission look at each case individually. So if they want to build a new fraternity or sorority house, they can look at that unique situation and try to make some decisions and look at every case, because every neighborhood's going to be different on where they build it. So that's what the intent of this is to look at each one individually. And then we also provided some lot and yard regulations, which are pretty standard, you'll see for most uses. But we put some numbers in there for those as well. So that's all this amendment deals with, is moving fraternities and sororities and boarding and lodging houses from a permitted use to a conditional use, and then providing our lot and yard regulations for that.
Thank you, Eddie. Any comments or questions from the audience on this? Please.
Jim Wilson, live at 1101 James Street. Here as the chairman of the Clay County Historic Preservation Commission. We had a very nice presentation on this amendment and the next three amendments by Mr. Colvin. And it is the determination of the Preservation Commission that we support all of them. I hope this will suffice so I don't have to come back up here 3 more times.
You can sit in the front.
But we do support them. They will improve quality of life and quality of appearance in the historic districts and throughout the town.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you.
Further discussion from anyone in the audience? Seeing none, turn it to council. Do you want to get a second first? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Rich, please.
Andy, by moving this to conditional use, that means that basically all rules are off. We can make it a one-by-one decision as to what can be done for that particular piece of property. Is that true or no?
Sort of.
Okay.
What the conditional use permit will allow is if say you have a fraternity or sorority, a Greek association that wants to build a new house in Vermillion, and they identify a parcel of ground, and that happens to be in the R2 zoning district, they need to apply for a conditional use permit. And they'll put their application in, we find out what they're building, where it's going to be, and some of that information, and then we will schedule a public hearing. So we'll post it on the property. They will have a hearing. The neighbors can come. Any community person can come and ask questions. And it allows the Planning Commission to really look at some the real details of it, and try to find out, does that use fit in that neighborhood? And look at things like lighting, or look at parking, or look at landscaping. Look at some of those items to see what would fit in best with that particular use. Most of the time, in my experience, the plans an applicant proposes are just fine, and there's no issues. But there may be a time where it'll take some working with them to try to make that fit.
Well, don't misunderstand. I think that's great. It's a great idea. I didn't want to misunderstand that. Is it covered here or in later ones about allowing additional parking off-site?
That will come in the next amendment.
Great. Thank you.
Further comments? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Give Andy a rest here for a minute and turn to Jose for first reading of ordinance. First reading of ordinance 1340, amending section 155.072 to modify language pertaining to off-street parking for fraternities and sororities, remove the exemptions to parking in the front and side yards, and modifying language pertaining to parking allowance in all districts. And Jose, please.
Thank you. In addition to the concerns that possibly building a fraternity, I guess, in some of these districts within the city, the issues that Andy brought up, another issue that arose in the past years was actually the location of the off-street parking for multifamily structures. Historically, the city has actually allowed parking for multifamily structures to occur within the required front yard. This has caused some construction within the R2 district to not necessarily match or mesh well with the adjoining properties, those being mainly single-family properties, mainly because they do not have a landscaped front yard, or the side yard might not be landscaped either. Other challenges with the permitting parking front yards involve the increased storm water runoff to the streets that typically don't have the capacity for the higher stormwater volume. The proposed changes to the ordinance would actually allow Greek houses to have a portion of the required off-street parking to be on a different lot. So they're still going to have to supply or provide the parking that's required by the ordinance. It's just that a portion of that would be or could be within a different lot. A portion of it is going to be in their lot. It depends on how the Planning Commission would agree to, or what they would agree to during the conditional use permit that Andy mentioned previously. Another amendment that the ordinance would allow, this amendment would allow, would be for any parking within the required front yard for multifamily structures within the R2 district would not be allowed. So the parking would actually have to be essentially, in the rear yard within the R2 district for multifamily. Additionally, the amendment would also limit the amount of required front yard parking for multifamily structures to 25% of the required parking within the R3 district. So there, again, same as historically, we do allow them to park within the required front yard. What we would be doing is saying, okay, now you can only have 25% of those parking stalls be within the front yard. So if they have 100 parking stalls that's required, they're only going to be having 25 of them within the required front yard. So that way, again, we still have some landscaping within the front of the properties, and hopefully it increases the appeal of some of these properties, and then also diminishes some of the storm sewer flows that we receive as far as in the street. Should be noted, as I was trying to mention, or maybe you guys already know, that the proposed amendment will only apply for future construction. So existing fourplexes or existing multifamily structures, anything that's existing would not be, this would not apply to them whatsoever. This is only going to be for new structures, or anything that might fall out of the rental code eventually. Maybe somebody might forget to keep a house within the rental code, and after so long, I think it's a year, it lapses out of it. So then if they want to bring it back into the rental code, then they would have to meet with the new code requirements, and one of those would be parking. The Planning Commission forwarded a recommendation to approve the amendment. The City Council is asked to take public comments and take action on the amendment. The proposed amendments will ease the redevelopment process for Greek housing while still providing a level of oversight from the Planning Commission by requiring parking to be approved during the conditional use permit. Administration would recommend approval of the amendment.
Thank you, Jose. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this topic? Please.
Hi, I'm Gene Lunn. I live at 403 North Plum. And I stand here in complete agreement in support of this amendment. I would like to just give you a little brief as to why. 2 years ago, a situation in our neighborhood arose that we were unable to do anything about because of front yard parking. There was a single-family residence across the street from me at Plum and Madison. That residence was bought for $126,000 and tore down. So effectively, they paid $126,000 for the lot and built 2 fourplexes. So we went from 1 single-family residence to 4 units. The most important thing, though, that I feel about that whole process is that prior to the construction, 13.7% of that property was covered with a roof, some concrete or whatever, and 86% of it was green space. Today, 78.9% of it is concrete and rooftops, and 21.1% is green space. And that lot before had a low spot that gathered a lot of rainwater. Today, that rainwater is going out in the street and down into a low spot. And the final chapter hasn't been written on that project. When we get a big rain, there's going to be a landowner that's going to have a flooded basement. So this project, or this amendment, really has a big effect. The project in my neighborhood, the rain's not going to affect my property. It's not my problem, but there's a problem for a citizen in this town. But also during that time frame, I also did a quick search, and found about 20 corners in Vermillion within a 6-7 block radius of the university that this same project could happen if this amendment doesn't go into effect. And I don't think that's what this community wants. I don't, it doesn't affect me. Those other 20 lots don't affect me. But I really can't see 20 some other neighborhoods having the same thing happen for the expediency of cash flow. And that's what the developer told me. It was a cash flow project. So I stand here in full support. I stand here acknowledging what the city staff has done to help correct this issue in Vermillion, and I applaud them for it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Gene. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this topic? Seeing none, turn to the council. A motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 1340, amending section 155.072 to modify language pertaining to off-street parking for fraternities and sororities, remove the exemptions to parking in the front and side yards, and modifying language pertaining to parking allowance in all districts. Just for my memory, Jose, did that include other types of congregate housing other than fraternities and sororities?
Yeah, that would actually be within the ordinance itself. There's a section in there talking about rooming and boarding houses, sororities, and fraternities. So yes.
Okay. Rich?
Jose, number 7, off-street parking shall be located on the same zoning lot as the principal use served. What does that mean?
That's mainly for, it's not going to be applying to the rooming and sororities in particular, but that has mainly to do with apartments. If you have an apartment right now, that maybe the parking might not fit all within that one lot. They have been allowed to actually go into a separate lot, adjoining lot, that they own, and put parking in that area that might actually be benefiting a different unit. And that's what that is for. So if I have 2 fourplexes, let's say, and both of them are going to be adjacent to each other in their own lot, that's how the ordinance requires them to be in their own lot, then each of those fourplexes will have to have the required parking within that lot for that particular unit. So that way, what that prohibits is the property owner, the developer, from having one lot with 4 parking stalls and another lot with 20 parking stalls. And part of those 20 parking stalls actually benefit the apartment unit that only has 4 parking stalls in front of it.
okay, I think. Got it. Thank you, Jose.
Any other comments or questions? Mike, do we have a motion?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thanks, Jose. Okay, back to Andy. First reading of ordinance 1341, amending section 155.008, definitions, amending the definition of an accessory building or use. Andy, please.
Thank you. Well, this really ties into what Jose just said with regard to the zoning lot. Right, in this chapter as well, that provided that as an exemption, where you could go on a different zoning lot to do that. So this also cleans that up to be consistent with what you had and removes that as well. So the zoning has to be more consistent.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the audience? Seeing none, turn to council.
Move approval.
Motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 1341. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item I, first reading of ordinance 1342, amending section 155.077, landscaping standards, providing additional requirements for living ground cover in all residential, commercial, and industrial districts. Again, Andy, please.
Thank you. This amendment to the landscaping section of our zoning ordinance really comes from some discussions the planning commission's had in the past and maybe some feedback and some discussions we've had. And what we're doing really is strengthening our landscaping requirements for new developments, so new property that would be coming on into the city. So right now you have to have 90% of the required front yard setback landscaped. And the first part of this is we're going to add in the parkway and then also a portion of the rear yard as well. The parkway is what some people call the boulevard, that area between the curb and the sidewalk. So that would be included in that 90% to be landscaped in green space. The second part of this is right now in all of our business and industrial districts, we have a tree requirement where there needs to be a tree planted. We are adding our residential districts to this as well, which is just one tree, and it could be in the front yard, it could be in the parkway, and that would go hand in hand with our tree ordinance the council's adopted not that long ago. So that set out more details for planting a tree. Well, this one would require a tree on a typical lot for residents as well. And then it has some stipulations for what kinds of trees and things like that. And then the rest of it really just cleans up. You notice a lot of numbers there that are spelled out. That's something to be consistent with some of our other code that we added in there. That doesn't have an effect on this other than some cleanup language.
Thank you, Andy. Comments or anybody in the audience want to comment on this one? Okay, council. Motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 1342. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We have no old business, so we'll turn to new business. And item A is the Shakespeare Festival street closing. And John, please.
Thank you. As was discussed earlier, the Shakespeare Festival is coming up here in June, and annually what they've done, or at least the last couple of years, is they've closed a portion of Main Street. There are two pieces to this request. One is to close East Main Street from Plum Street. The intersection would remain open to Walker Street 1 hour before the respective production times to basically when the production ends. As Mike referenced earlier, 3 of those on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the 9th, 10th, and 11th, are evening productions beginning at 7. So the request for those nights is to close it at 6:30. Let's see if I can find my notes here. Beginning at 7 and would end at approximately 4 p.m. Excuse me. Begin at 7 p.m. and then would end at 9:30. And then the Sunday, June 12th, that production is a little bit earlier, so that would close at 3 and then would open at 6:30 approximately when that production is done. What they have done is each one of those 3 spots at Walker, Sycamore, and Plum is manned, and they have, if an emergency vehicle needs to get through, they'll move the barricades, or somebody's inside that area and needs out, they move the barricades to let that person out. The second part of the request is to remove the parking on East Main Street from Plum to Walker Street, and that's so they have an RV that they bring in that's used for some of the cast members, support vehicles, et cetera, are parked along there during the week of that production. It's the same request as last year, other than the Sunday afternoon matinee time, move that time up a little bit earlier.
Thank you, John. Comments of anyone in the audience on this? Seeing none, council?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the Shakespeare Festival street closing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item B is a request to close High Street as it abuts the fairgrounds immediately south of West Cherry Street on May 7, 2016, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the Spring Demolition Derby. Mike, please.
The Clay County Agricultural Fair Association is hosting their Spring Demo Derby this Saturday, May 7th. The group is requesting the temporary closing of the portion of High Street as it abuts the fairgrounds from 5 p.m. until 7:30, or 5 p.m. until 10:30. This is to provide safety for those entering and exiting from the event. When it's done during the fair, the street's closed, so people kind of walk across the street when they leave or whatever. Police, fire, and EMS have been notified of the closure and have found no safety concerns. Administration recommends approval of the closing of that portion of High Street from 5 p.m. until 10:30 on Saturday, May 7th.
Thank you, Mike. Any comments or questions from the audience? Seeing none, council?
Move approval.
A motion and a second for the Hills High Street closing on May 7, 2016. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item C, a street closure request to close Prentice Avenue from East Clark Street to East Main Street on May 15, 2016. John, please.
Thank you. As was referenced earlier in the meeting, there'll be an exhibition baseball game on Sunday, May 15th at Prentice Park. And to help in case individuals may want to chase foul balls or whatever the case might be, to provide a little bit of additional safe area there, the VCDC has submitted a request to close Prentice Avenue from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. that particular Sunday, May 15th. Would be closed from East Clark Street to East Main Street. Just like the previous agenda item, they would be staffed barricades so that if one of the residents or property owners wants to get out during the course of the closure, there'd be somebody there to let them out, or if they were returning, they could get back in to their house at that time. Administration would recommend approval of the street closure request for Prentice on May 15th from 2 to 5.
So that takes away the parking that's been diagonal on the east side of the ballpark, is that? Okay. Comments or questions from the audience? Seeing none, council?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the street closure. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item D is permit, whoops. Yeah, that's right. No. I've got these. Oh, yeah, it is. It is. I'm sorry. A permit for consumption but not sale at the Edith B. Seegers Vermillion Public Library at 18 Church Street on May 20th, 2016 from 6 to 8 p.m. for Books and Brew event. And Mike, please.
Susan Hegestad on behalf of the Vermillion Public Library, as was approved by the Library Board of Trustees, is requesting a permit for the consumption of alcoholic beverages on public property for their Books and Brew event. Going to be held in the Edith B. Seegers Public Library Garden, which is located behind the library, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on May 20th. And if the weather doesn't cooperate, the event will be held in the Kozak Room. A copy of the request and information about the event is attached. State statute provides that the governing body of a municipality may permit the consumption but not sale of alcoholic beverages on property owned by the public. Administration would recommend approval of the special permit to allow the consumption but not sale of alcoholic beverages at the Edith B. Seegers Vermillion Public Library Garden behind the library or the Kozak Room from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on May 20th.
Thank you, Mike. Any comments or questions from the audience? Seeing none, council? Motion and a second to approve the permit. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item E is a capital improvement plan, the CIP plan. And John, please.
Thank you. I think as the council is currently aware, budgeting is a long process, and there's several steps to it. And one of those steps is we try to develop a capital improvement plan that lays out for several years ideas and projects that the council will be considering for funding as different things arise. The first year, obviously, are things that are funded that we kind of restate on the capital improvement plan to just as another way to remind the public of things that we're planning to do this year, and also just kind of for the council, too, of things that we might have coming up that we might have talked about during the budget sessions last August and September. And then we do our best to forecast some projects that we see on the horizon happening over the next couple of years, the 17, 18, 19, and 20. 2017, 18, 19, 20 in this case. And so we have established and reviewed with the council a number of projects that we see on the horizon coming up, things to be looking for, planning for, and ultimately potentially budgeting for. And so we have developed a number of ideas there with respect to the dollar cost that may happen if the council moves these projects forward for funding. Just a couple of different projects just for the community, a few of the things, and these are not all the projects that we're looking at in 2017. Pavement treatments and maintenance, that could be the chip seal to asphalt overlays to a number of different things. The Main Street traffic signals, that's the Center Court and Main intersection. When those traffic signals were removed, we talked about in 17 we would be doing whatever that project is to help improve pedestrian and bike safety as well as vehicle safety in terms of the sight distances. So that intersection is part of what's planned. Annually, you budget for new library materials. We anticipate beginning some of the physical construction of the new electrical substation to be built in the northeast part of the community. That'll probably be a more than one-year project, but we would anticipate the first piece of the construction to take place in 2017. Obviously, as council's aware, engineering and land acquisition and so forth are taking place right now. You would have the second phase of the LED streetlight conversion project. People may be noticing those as different sections are completed in the community, but that's a 4-year project, and so we have planned some additional funding in 2017 for that. The Prentice Avenue lift station reconstruction project. This is not related to the park projects. This is related to development and growth in the northeastern portion of our community. As we've had a lot of growth in that area, and in the age of that sanitary sewer lift station, it is a corrosive and not the best environment. And I believe that lift station's at 50 or over 50 years old, and that's between capacity and the age. We need to do something. We've talked about that with council. We anticipate that that project would begin in 2017 in terms of the physical construction. Next year, you may notice today, this afternoon, they started putting up the fence posts for the Prentice Park pool construction project. So that project is underway, and the pool will begin here this summer, be completed in May of next year, and then another phase of that project is the Prentice Park basketball courts, which are going to be taken out of service here shortly because that's part of our construction staging area. We would have the new basketball courts, because of their new physical location, would be constructed next year, and so we included some funding in there for that as well. So those are just a few of the projects that we're looking at in 2017. There's a lot of different departments, obviously, that we've gone through some of those, but just to kind of give you in the community an idea of some of the projects that we're looking at in 2017. As a council, you'll have more, obviously, intense discussion about these as we reach budget time in August and September.
Thank you, John. Questions from anybody in the audience on this item, please?
Thank you. Tom Sorensen. I'm just curious, and Mr. Prescott, you said there are others that are not listed here, but my concern is the future of trees and replacement of trees in the event, especially if the emerald ash borer hits town. As a young boy once, I remember a lot of elm trees, and they went by the wayside, but Vermillion still became a Tree City, USA. So I'm hoping, and I don't know if it's under capital or what category it's under, but I would hope there's some planning ahead for replacement of trees that we have lost and may still lose. Thank you.
You want to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Sorensen. Just a couple of things, as you alluded to, is I believe this is our 31st year as a tree city here, and we've also had some discussions about USD being a tree campus and achieving that goal with the campus program as well. But that's something they'll work through their process. We are actually trying something right now. The tree board recommended and the city council approved a program where we are, we call it Retree Vermillion, and we have 10 trees of 2 different varieties that are available for the public. It's a program where basically you contribute $25, or for $25 you get a tree that's probably worth about $125. So it's a pretty good return on your investment there. And we had piloted that program this year. We're trying to do 10 trees. And last I knew we had only had 4 or 5 people apply. And so we're trying to figure out a way to provide some additional trees in the community and to encourage that. The other thing I'll just share with you, I don't know the exact numbers, is with respect to the public right-of-way in our parks, they did do an inventory of the number of trees that are susceptible to the emerald ash borer, the number of green ash trees we have. And the park staff did that at least last year, if not the year before. And so we kind of know with respect to public right-of-way, the numbers that we have, and if we were to lose all those trees, the number that we'd need to replace that way. So a lot of different efforts. The tree board has been looking at some different ways to encourage tree planting as well as education of how to take care of trees.
Despite the fact that the deadline for the Retree application has gone by, if someone was still interested in participating in that program, could they still do that?
I believe they could. We wanted to get those trees out into the community, and so I think the deadline just passed last week, so we're not that far past it that I don't see that as a problem. So if somebody's watching tonight and they would like to participate in that program, give us a call tomorrow and we'll see if we can set those up, because we'd like to get. We had hoped to well surpass the demand and have to figure out which were the best or do the first come, first serve, and we've only had 4 or 5 at this point. So.
Okay, anyone in the audience? Seeing none, then we'll turn it to the council. Yeah. Motion and second to adopt the capital improvement plan. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item F is a library board appointment. As many people know, the board is comprised of 5 citizens appointed by the city council and 1 member of the city council. The board terms are for 3 years and expire in May. 2 people, the current members of the library board and term expiration year are John Flanagan, 2016, Carl Gutzman, 2016, Daniel Berniston, 2017, Diane Elijah, 2017, and Fern Kaufman, 2018. The city council members appointed when city council committee assignments are made in July of even years. The current council member serving on the board is Kelsey Collier-Wise. At this point, we had 7 people apply for these 2 positions, and I appreciate people taking the time and effort to apply for this and also indicating an interest in serving such an important board. I asked the council for help on this, and so each council person was allowed to select 2 people from the list, and I'm happy to announce that Gabriel Strauss and Martha Muhlenberg were the top winners, so they will be the new library board members. And so, John, if you would notify them, I'd appreciate that. I guess I would like to have the council make a motion to approve this. Motion a second to approve the library board appointments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item G is the AFSCME union agreement for communication center employees. And John, please.
Thank you. We have 3 different groups that are represented by unions. 2 of those are represented by AFSCME. The first AFSCME agreement that represents, if you will, the general employees, that was adopted by the City Council in the 4th quarter of last year. And then the second AFSCME group represents our telecommunications workers, those individuals who work, if you will, at 911. And so we've been working with the AFSCME union with respect to this. This is the first time that they have negotiated on behalf of the telecommunications workers. And so it's taken a little bit longer, but as we worked through a number of things to get this set up. They did vote to approve the proposal that was also presented to Labor and Finance Committee, and they recommended approval to you back at your March 21st meeting. The proposed agreement runs for 3 years. It covers calendar 16, 17, and 18. Provides for a cost of living adjustment of 2.5% in 2016, 2.25% 2017, and then 2.25% for January 1st of 2018. A change was that, a couple changes, all employees covered by this bargaining unit will pay a $30 monthly fee in addition to any health insurance premium for the type of health insurance coverage that they select, whether it's employee only, two-party, or family. And then with this group, we also have established 2 pay scales. For current employees, there will now be 12 steps. And then for new employees that would be hired after this is ratified, they will be placed on a 15-step scale. The 12 steps, there's a little bit more room between the steps. The 15-step scale, there's a smaller difference. But that was one of the things that was negotiated or discussed through there. Through the process. This agreement is similar to the previous union that represented them in terms of the layout due to member familiarity with it. And then also we do cover some unique benefits that telecommunications employees have due to the 24/365 nature of their operation. So the Labor and Finance Committee has been involved with this process. They've been kept updated on it. They recommend approval, and administration would recommend the same.
May I understand that's just one more of the units?
Yes.
So there's still one that's, okay. Questions or comments from the council? A motion and a second to approve the ASME union agreement for communication center employees. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion carries. Item H is a resolution of support for DENR tire disposal grant program. And John, please.
Thank you. This is an item that came up on Friday, actually. DENR is looking to set up a couple of tire recycling locations. We had this program back in 2010, and they're looking to set it up again here in probably about the next month. Their goal is to collect a number of tires from the area because tires serve as a prime breeding ground for mosquitoes when they attract water and the water sits there, and that becomes prime ground for mosquitoes. And part of this is the state's efforts to help head off the Zika virus, which has potential to work its way north through either humans transporting it or other mosquitoes. And so the state's bringing about this effort. How it would work is there would be, this grant would cover Clay County, Union County, and Yankton County. There would be a site established in each one of the 3 counties. We would coordinate it through a joint powers landfill. So whatever the set period is the state has, people will be able to drop off their tires there for no charge. And then we would work with a vendor who would come and collect those tires and remove them from the sites. And then the state would reimburse our landfill for the cost of that vendor coming in and picking up the tires. So perhaps other than a little bit of staff time to process the grant, to accept the tires as they come in, there would really be no cost for our landfill or for residents here. So staff would recommend approval of the resolution of support, which is what DNR is seeking at this point in time, so that they can further consider us as an applicant for this process.
Thank you, John. Do you have any sense of what the other 2 counties are doing?
I imagine with our relationship with Yankton through joint powers, I'm very comfortable that they'll probably do the same thing. I've exchanged emails with their city manager, and probably will use the transfer station over there at Yankton. With respect to Union County, I know Bob Iverson, our solid waste manager, was going to be in contact with Elk Point to try to find a central location in Union County for them, but I don't believe that contact is as far along.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions for John? Council?
Move approval. Second.
A motion and a second to approve the DENR grant funding to remove tires at the Joint Powers landfill. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving on then to bid openings, fuel quotes, Mike.
I think there should be a listing of fuel quotes. I guess it just popped up on the screen for us. Number 1 is 4,350 gallons of unleaded gasoline with 10% ethanol. First Quotes from Stern Oil at $1.86.94 cents. Item 2 is unleaded gasoline regular, 1,000 gallons, at $2.05.97 cents. Item 3 is 3,000 gallons of number 2 diesel fuel dyed, $1.60.93 cents. Item 4 is 1,000 gallons of number 2 diesel fuel cleared, $1.91.58 cents. Second quotes from Brunick Service for item 1, $1.90. Item 2, $2.15. Item 3, $1.64. Item 4, $1.95. Stern Oil would have been low on all 4 items.
Council?
Move approval of the low bid. Second.
Motion is second to accept the low bid from Stern Oil on all 4 items. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item B, landfill bale bags. And Jose, please.
Thank you. Solid Waste Department uses landfill bale bags to bale the garbage that they collect and compact. These bale bags are designed to contain about or hold up to about 2,800 pounds of waste. Bidding is required by the state law for any bids over $25,000 for materials over $25,000. We had estimated at the time that this would exceed that. So staff actually sent bids to, or requests for bids to 3 possible suppliers. We received 1 bid on April 21st. This bid was from Global Packaging Solutions. Their bid was for $58,500. This is for 1 semi-load with 18,000 bale bags. So that should last us close to a year, hopefully. The 2016 Joint Powers landfill budget includes funding for the landfill bale bags. Administration recommends purchasing the bale bags from Global Packaging Solutions for $58,500 and allowing staff to issue a purchase order for the material.
Thanks, Jose. Council?
Move approval. Second.
Motion is second to approve the purchase of the landfill bale bags. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thanks, Jose. Item 10 is the city manager report. John, please.
The online registration program for our summer park and recreation department offerings open today for all the programs. So just a reminder to go out there and look at the programs. You can register online now. And also a reminder, the Prentice Park Pool is scheduled to open on May 26th if the weather permits. It's not raining or anything like that. Just about a year ago, we started glass recycling in the community. It was in, I think, late May of 2015. And we've had now 2 loads of glass that have gone out through the recycling center. The vendor just picked up the last load last week. So the community, and also includes Yankton, has recycled just over 42 tons of glass during the 1 year since we started this program. So we appreciate people's participation in that. It's gone very well. Our water department recently received the Secretary's Award for Drinking Water Excellence, and that came from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. And this is the 15th consecutive year that they've received the Secretary's Award for Drinking Water Excellence. And not to be outdone, the wastewater treatment facility, they were recently awarded a 2015 Operation and Maintenance Award, also from DENR. We do have 1 planning commission term that has become vacant. An individual is relocating out of state, so there's a partial term that would last until June of 2020. We have an expression of interest forms that are available here at City Hall. They're also available on our website. We ask that those be returned by Thursday, May 12th of this year, and we anticipate the City Council then would appoint someone at their May 16th meeting. Just a reminder, we did have to reschedule the swimming pool groundbreaking at Prentice Park. It was supposed to take place last Wednesday. That was postponed, and so the public and all are invited to come this Wednesday, May 4th at 4 p.m. We'll do the groundbreaking for the Prentice Park swimming pool project. And then one final item, our next city auction is scheduled for Friday, May 13th, and that'll be at 5:30 p.m. at the Municipal Service Center, 115 West Duke Street.
Thank you, John. Any questions for our city manager? Seeing none, then we'll turn to invoices payable. Any questions for Mike on the invoices? We'll take item 1 separate. Okay. Can we have a motion on item 1? Motion is second to approve item 1. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Motion to approve the balance.
Motion and a second to approve the remaining items. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Consensus agenda, we have, what do I do with it? Oh, here it is. It's just the one. Consensus agenda set a public hearing date of May 16, 2016 for annual malt beverage license renewals. I need a motion on that, please. Motion is second to approve the consensus agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. At this point, at 8:05, we're going to go into executive session for personnel matters. I need a motion for that, please. Okay, well, I'll just declare it. We're in executive session. Do you need any break time, or can we just continue on? Well, people leave, but we can.